looking at to what happened during this battle in Antarctica in 1946-47 involving Operation Highjump. So he got the 5 remote viewers under blind conditions, so they didn't know what the targets were. All they were told is, remote view target 1. Tell me what you see. They don't know. They weren't told anything about target 1. They had help, extraterrestrial help, and in fact, very surprising extraterrestrial help. Clearly, the Nazis could not have established a powerful military presence in Antarctica without outside assistance. So President Truman sets up the Majestic 12 group in September 1947. So then you have the big one, which was 1952, July. You have successive weekends where formations of flying saucers fly over Washington, D.C. That these formations that flew over Washington, D.C. in 1952 were German craft, not extraterrestrials from some other world, flying over us and just wanting to introduce themselves. It's like that. These were the German craft flying possibly with some of their ET allies, wanting to pressure the Truman administration to begin negotiations. We're not going to bomb you. We're not interested in having a war with you. What we want is negotiate. President Eisenhower gets elected in November 1952, and he has one big problem to deal with. He's got to look at what do you do about these Antarctic Germans and their alliance with these extraterrestrials who are giving the Germans flying saucer craft to reverse engineer and build fleets so that they can be part of these interstellar conquests. And Eisenhower and the rest of the US military leadership are like, my God, what do we do here? Look, we've got to negotiate with them. We have to start catching up. We've got to make a deal so that they start giving us some of that tech so we can start reverse engineering it. Or they can explain to us how to reverse engineer this stuff, because it's so advanced, and without extraterrestrial assistance, we don't know how to reverse engineer it. Technology agreements. And so they were warned of a painful future if agreements were made, since the extraterrestrials were untrustworthy. So Eisenhower was being told by this friendly group of human extraterrestrials, saying, look, another group is going to come. They're part of this kind of unreliable group, and I'm sure he described them like tall grey extraterrestrials or reptilian extraterrestrials, and said, look, they are untrustworthy. They've made agreements with certain powerful groups on your planet, and you need to be careful of them. So in this diagram, you have a picture of what was seen by multiple witnesses of a flying saucer from a formation. I think there were 3 flying saucers flying in formation. One of them landed at Holloman Air Force Base, and 2 of them hovered over and provided kind of protection for the one that landed. And President Eisenhower flew up in what was, at the day, Air Force One was then called Columbine 3, and he entered into the flying saucer. That's when he had a meeting with the occupants. Now, exactly who the occupants are, there's a lot of debate. Were they German? Were they extraterrestrial? Were they a combination of the two? Not quite clear, but certainly different sources, Bill Tompkins, Clark McClellan, Corey Good, Vladimir Tazinski, say that these were Germans. And technologies were so far ahead of what the US had achieved that even though they had lost the war, still they developed these incredible prototypes and technologies that we needed to learn about so we could develop our own. So they brought in thousands of German scientists under Operation Paperclip. So Eisenhower is tricked into giving MJ-12 more power. MJ-12 gains power under the government reorganization led by Nelson Rockefeller, who chaired President Eisenhower's advisory committee on government reorganization from 1953 to 1958. Now we're going to the flying saucer projects. They were moved in the mid-1950s. They were moved from Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, which is the US Air Force's premier research and development facility for aerospace development, and leaked Majestic documents point to Wright-Patterson as being where the flying saucers from Roswell, Aztec, and other places were taken. So the flying saucers are taken to Wright-Patterson and studied by Air Force engineers and laboratories and so forth, and then information is passed on to US corporations for reverse engineering. The American military knew about that. The intelligence community knew about that. People in the know knew about that. But the American public, you and I, we were told, we don't know what UFOs are. You know, Apollo's all about getting Americans to the moon. Bullshit. Keep that in mind. It got Americans to the moon, but Germans to Mars, Alpha Centauri, and beyond. Because that's what the Apollo program was designed for. It was a massive cover for the German space program in Antarctica to be funded with billions of dollars, with tens of thousands of personnel for a huge expansion of the Dark Fleet. And it was all being run in collaboration with the US military-industrial complex. The Rockefeller family were in on it. People like Eisenhower were cut out of the loop. Under the Eisenhower administration with the Majestic 12 group, led to the formation of something called the interplanetary corporate conglomerate. Now, you know, different insiders will talk about this kind of a corporate conglomerate that was set up as a result of these agreements in the 1950s between the Eisenhower administration and the Germans in Antarctica. So industrial manufacturing at Dark Fleet ICC facilities use slave labour. And this is something that I think is very, very important. Relates to what I described earlier, that the Fourth Reich, that the Dark Fleet was all based on Nazi ideology, where slave labour was a key foundation. So there are good guys here. ET civilizations are intervening to reveal the truth and assist human liberation. Now remember earlier on I talked about Eisenhower having a meeting in 1954 with a positive extraterrestrial group, the Galactic Federation, that warned Eisenhower not to make a deal with those other extraterrestrial groups that are coming forward. Eisenhower was overruled by his national security team.